Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. The man pictured here, John Edward Dooley, known as Jack to his pards and the 1st Virginia Infantry, proved as gallant a soldier as any who served during the Civil War. During his 3 years in the Confederate Army, he rose in rank from private to captain and participated in numerous major engagements with the Army of Northern Virginia. At Gettysburg, he suffered severe wounds and fell into enemy hands during Pickett's charge. Dooley also proved a dedicated diarist. After the war, while events were still relatively fresh, and before his untimely death from consumption at age 30 in 1873, Dooley expanded his wartime diary entries into a narrative of his experiences during the war. Long time later, in 1945, his writings were published as John Dooley, Confederate Soldier, His War Journal. The book's editor, Joseph T. Durkin, had taught history at Georgetown University, where Dooley studied for the priesthood, dying before he could complete the next step in his life's journey. I want to share a passage with you. Dooley's participation in the Second Battle of Manassas, also known as Bull Run, on August 29th and 30th, 1862. The engagement was his first major battle, and he describes what he saw and what he did in vivid prose. We begin here. Passing through this morning, August 29th, several bluecoats who were killed last evening are lying scattered here and there unburied. Things begin to look real now, and we were pushed on rapidly but cautiously. When we reached Gainesville, about 10 a.m., the whole corps is excited, and the rumor is circulated that the Yankee cavalry were driven through this little place a few hours since by our advance. The sun is intensely hot, and we are jaded and parched with heat. Still we go on. Sounds of war are distinctly heard in front. We are told about midday to load our guns, and this was my first loading with intent to kill. I had nearly forgotten about my last night's mishap, and the rapid marching had taken the stiffness out of my limbs. I trembled with excitement, and I may add with fear, for I was never very brave, and Captain Mitchell had the kindness to give me some advice about loading and keeping cool when we should get under fire. Here we go now through the woods, deployed in line of battle. About a half-mile distant, one of the enemy's batteries is posted looking for some antagonist, and our brigade is told to advance towards this terrible-looking affair, and afterwards to march by the right flank into some woods nearby and wait for further orders. Now we go right at them, as it were. They see us, and here come the shells crashing through the trees back at us and plowing up the open field over which we are going. After marching until about 3 p.m., we passed over ground that the enemy had been driven from during the morning, and our brigade was ordered again in to load. Oh, how scared I felt. If I could only stay out of that fight with honor, how gladly would I have done so. But I was today to smell gunpowder for the first time on a field of battle. Here we go through the woods, guns at a trail. Now we deploy in line of battle in a field beyond, double quick, now across the railroad track, suffocating, nearly dead from the heat of the sun. Now double quicking across a plowed field, a fence right ahead, and beyond that, about 600 yards, a Yankee battery in full blast, belching forth flame, smoke, and bombshells, and worse than all, right at us. On goes our line, right on, as if we were going to charge those fearful engines of war. And how the shells scream and whistle, everyone over our heads. Close up forward, steady, dress to the right, give way on the left, don't crowd the center. And one of those enormous projectiles bursts immediately in front of the regiment, appearing to cover us all with dust. The two men beside me are knocked over and covered with dirt. Though stunned, neither are hurt, and on we go with the whining and whizzing and banging of 100 contradictory orders until we reach the fence aforementioned, when we all lie down according to instructions and await further developments. I was very much frightened, and I am sure I wasn't the only one. Although the Yankees cannot see us in this position, yet they keep a feeling for us, which is anything but pleasant, especially when a fellow reflects what searching things balls are. Further developments have been made upon our left. Our services can be dispensed with, and we are withdrawn for the evening, while Jackson, Hood, and others gain the Battle of Groveton. And I must confess, I feel much safer and easier in mind and body while I listen to the volleys of musketry swelling in the distance and becoming more distant until the outbursting of yells and our brave troops in the distance gives us assurance that all for us is well. Night closes around us, enveloping in a shroud of darkness the dead, the dying, and the sleeping armies. The next day, the memorable 30th of August, upon which we gained a complete victory over the boastful Pope, we rose betimes and remained in line of battle all day until about 4 o'clock p.m. Meanwhile, the Second Battle of Manassas progressing furiously in our front and on our left. About 4 p.m., when we had given up the idea of our being wanted today, one of General Longstreet's aides came over the field as if life and death depended on his speed, as verily it did. How well the men knew what his presence indicated, and he had scarcely been recognized before they had each one regained his musket and were arranging themselves in order along the line. We had driven the Yankees back on the left and also on the right, and it was for Longstreet's fresh troops, ourselves, to press the center. Here we go, closing up in double quick. Now, right in front, marching by the flank so as to avoid the woods and other obstacles. Now, we are over a fence, and the battery, which we are to charge, is right ahead. Again, we form in line, and now dashing through a cornfield. The bullets whistle through the leaves and ears and send many a brave comrade to his last account. But we have no time to think. Such is the excitement, such the feeling with which I am inspired, that I rush on with the rest, completely bewildered and scarcely heeding what takes place around. And now the bullets strike the ground in front of us, and comrades are falling pretty fast all around. I catch a glimpse of the battery. It's on a hill, quite a hill, and as we approach at double quick, all along the line, the very earth seems to open and belch forth fire and smoke and balls. Back, down the hill, rolls the brigade, which had immediately preceded us. Back, in utter rout and confusion, some shouting for us to go back, others to advance, some to lie down. Still, on we double quick all the time, right over the flying broken brigade and up the hill. Volley after volley, broadside after broadside comes crashing through our thinned ranks. Our colonel, the brave old Skinner, on this day the bravest of the brave, 40 or 50 yards ahead, is cutting down the Yankee gunners who defend their pieces to the last. Fire rings out along the brigade. Our muskets rattle out a volley along the whole line, and I find myself among dismounted cannon, broken caissons, bleeding horses, the dead and the dying. Our gallant Colonel Skinner comes reeling towards me, bleeding profusely from 3 severe wounds. "Jack," said he, "bear me witness that I was the first man on that battery." "I will, Colonel," replied I, and I set to work to bind up the flow of blood which was streaming from his arm, which was torn from wrist to elbow by a bullet. The colonel is soon carried from the field, and I turned to look for the brigade, which had in the meantime borne away to the left. I fall in with about 50 or 60 of ours who have become detached by that same leftward move. We all league together and drive through the woods a party of Yankees who keep up an annoying fire. And now we take possession of a rising knoll to the front and left, where many of our men have gathered to play upon the advancing enemy. From the knoll, although constantly engaged, we have a splendid view of the plain on our front and to the right. Some 500 or 600 yards distant is a dense thicket or wood which must be filled by our troops. In front of this wood and directly in front of our position, the whole plain, as far as the eye can reach, is covered with the blue of the enemy. Some brigades flying in disorder, others advancing in serried lines, with the stars and stripes innumerable floating in the breeze. Officers vainly endeavoring to rally their wavering ranks, furiously dashing up and down the lines. Then little parties of flying soldiers, Federals, rallying are again and again led to the charge, while our troops may be seen again and again on the advance, while their wild, fearful, victorious yells give renewed confidence to us, strike terror into the souls of the Yankees, and send them reeling back in disorder over the field. This appears to be their center, but a large portion of it is already in irremediable confusion. Yet still, the shell and bullets rain thick and fast around, and as they speed along, sing and whistle the death song of hundreds of the fallen. Oh, the horrid scenes around us. Brains, fractured skulls, broken arms and legs, and the human form mangled in every conceivable and inconceivable manner. And now the enemy seen gathering for the fresh resistance, perhaps for an onset themselves by which they may hope to retrieve the fortune of the day and check our advance. Yes, here they come. 4 or 5 lines of fresh troops deploy in the open plain in our front and direct their charge directly against the copse of woods off to our right. Oh, this is a splendid sight, and one which the disinterested might well go into raptures over. Line after line of the best of the Yankee army steadily advances, and as orderly as if on parade. And it seems as though there was a slight cessation in the frightful roar of the artillery and musketry as these well-drilled troops press on over the blood-red plain. At every step they take, they see the piles of wounded and slain, and their feet are slipping in the blood and the brains of their comrades. Shells burst among them, and a desultory musketry fire helps to thin their ranks, but still on they press, closing up steadily, splendidly. Many other officers may be plainly distinguished riding beside their brigades and divisions, while the stars and stripes boastfully flaunt out defiance in the advance of each regiment. On they come over dead and dying, right at the copse of woods. The order is given, charge, and at the double quick, the foremost lines charge against the woods. They are scarcely 50 or 80 yards distant when a volume of smoke almost obscures the woods from our sight, and volley after volley thunders against ill-fated columns. In vain does line after line advance at a run, torn and bleeding. They are hurled back, scattered, routed, in confusion over the plain, blue with their slain. In vain do the officers dash in the midst of the storm of shell and bullets. The fugitives will not be rallied, but broken and dismayed are pursued by our victorious troops until darkness closes around. I was happy enough to witness this terrible slaughter and rout, but could not see the pursuit. For Captain Mitchell being wounded in the leg, Lieutenant Mercer and I bore him from the field, and as the enemy were now in complete rout and darkness was setting in, I remained with Captain M near the Corps Hospital while the wounded were being rapidly brought in. So there you have the account of John Dooley, Jack Dooley, of his participation and the participation of his regiment, the 1st Virginia Infantry, in the Battle of Manassas. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War, the Research Trail.